We're going to talk about the Mule.
The Mule. So, the Mule. I wrote down a list of stuff that we're going to talk about this time, and going forward in any movie thing that we do.
Okay.
So,
do we still need to give a spoiler warning? Are we still going to?
So no, yeah, we're going to do that, but just don't. We're
gonna get there at the end
until we get to the middle part of what we think about it.
So there will be spoilers coming, but not yet.
Yes, we'll let you know. So we're gonna talk about the actors and acting. Clint Eastwood obviously starring in this movie, and then his.
I recognize the granddaughter, but I don't remember. Michael Pena.
Well, I'm gonna say was
Bradley Cooper.
Bradley Cooper kind of the antagonist in the way in this movie. Or was it the drug dealer? Because
I don't think he's. I wouldn't think of it.
It's an anti-hero kind of movie in a way, where he's getting chased. I would give
him I guess I don't know what to classify Bradley. I wouldn't say villain. I would just say he's that it was a, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It was the Mexican standoff thing, with 3-way.
Well, you have the cartel who is on the necks of Clint Eastwood's character, who I'm forgetting his name, in the movie, and then you had Bradley Cooper and then Michael Pena with the DEA, and then the dude from The Matrix, who I don't remember his name.
Well, I did not. Lawrence Fishburne.
And then you had Clint Eastwood's family, who I don't remember any of.
His actual real life daughter played his daughter in this movie. I didn't know that. No. Allison Eastwood is her name.
Okay. But yeah, so the acting and the characters, basically, those are the bulk of everything you need to know. The cartel, the leader of the cartel that actually brings them in. And it's kind of funny how we all got into this whole situation was because of his granddaughter, one of the friends of the granddaughter that brought him into the cartel to help him out, which is it was kind of a neat idea, and how let's get this guy that he has a good record. He knows the road because of his previous job, and let's hire him just to move drugs for us. And I was like, wow, that's a very smart idea. But yeah, so the actors, the performances, who's the standout?
I think obviously Clint Eastwood. I think that this was the dude's in his 80s, and he was great for this character. For, his personality, his
silly points and whatnot.
Right, yeah, his interactions with everyone, be it his age or interactions with the people that were in the cartel, or constantly joking about not being able to use your phones and stuff like that. He was simultaneously charming, simultaneously get off my lawn with these kids, and they're always looking at their phones, and they're always simultaneously just laid back, going with the flow kind of thing, the way he just interacted with everyone, regardless of if he didn't know him or not, and simultaneously a stereotypical old white guy where he was out of touch with so many things, and when he helps the family with his with their flat tire, they had the Prius flat tire or whatever, and he says a Negro.
Yeah,
and they're looking at each other what decade is this? And they're sir, no one uses that word anymore. He's oh, and his character obviously was just he wasn't even aware that there had been a change or whatever. That was the kind of, but he played all of those different facets of his character really well.
Yeah, I think even with what Bradley Cooper's scenes that he got in this movie, I think he did the best he could, because I think the lingo and the operation and everything, for him to work with didn't feel legitimate.
I think
because I've recently saw Narcos Mexico, and Michael Pena was the lead detective with the DA with that one. So he's kind of playing this not the similar character, but he's they switch roles where Michael Pena is kind of the sidekick, and then Bradley Cooper is playing what Michael Pena's character was in the Narcos series. But their lingo and their operations just seem when I compare the two movies and how they translated that to the film, I felt they kind of gave them a little bit of a crutch on how it all worked, because when you look at the other a show like that, they kind of went into more details on how they were gonna find him. For this one, it seemed it was too easy in a way in how they found him. Obviously they had a guy in undercover.
Right. Yeah.
We're not. I mean, that's not. That's not so much of a spoiler. But anyways, but that's what I meant. I felt that kind of it was too simple on their end. I felt like they should have made it a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, this
to make it
this
more
was a
relatable
very
game. But I
straight.
think for what his performance, I think he did a great job for what he had to work with.
I think that I would say that like the family side of things and a couple of the people in the cartel were good. I think that like on the Lawrence Fishburne, Bradley Cooper, Michael Pena side of things, it was, and this would be a criticism for me for the movie in general, it was like a little bit bland and predictable. Like I felt like Michael Pena was held back and like restrained in his role. Now, I mean, I know that it was supposed to be like a minor role, but like he had he was basically just, like you said, a sidekick. Like I didn't really feel like he ever had like his own moment or like anything like that. He was just kind of there. Like I was like, oh, that's Michael Pena. But like that character could have been anyone.
Yeah, the only time he was like a Michael Pena was talking about how he was gonna be. He told the guy like how he was gonna be in prison. That was like the only time he was like unleashed. But other than that, yeah, anyone could have played him. Unfortunately, and it's not like, as I'm saying, like those guys had to work with like very minimal
Right.
kind of scenes. But also like their scenes were kind of all the same thing. Like we gotta get a guy.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And
so like specifically for Michael Pena and Lawrence Fishburne, the guy in charge of the DEA or like that branch of the DEA in Chicago, I felt like both of those could, not that either one of those gave bad performances, but those could have been anyone. Very similar to like John Cena and Bumblebee, like could have been anyone. They're just like boss man, sidekick, sort of thing. Bradley Cooper, he had a little bit more room to play, but I felt like he was basically like Face from the A-Team without the humor, or it was like mission focused sort of guy, but like not funny at all, sort of thing. So like on that end, the movie struggled a little bit for me. It was just a little bit predictable, a little bit like cliche might not be the right word, but like just this was a cookie cutter movie. It was a good movie, but like it followed formulaic is the word. Like it followed a formula, and like it made it very predictable. But it was good. It was a good formula.
Okay,
if that makes sense.
All right, let's move on from the acting. Let's talk about camera work and like the cinematography. Then, did you remember any cool stuff like that at all?
I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention to that specifically in this movie. There wasn't anything that like stood out to me as like an incredible scene. I would put it like the powerful scenes were more like dialogue based, not necessarily like how they were shot.
Well, there was some for me. It just felt like a movie that was from either like the 90s or like the 80s, where they had these weird. It just didn't feel modern at all. Where
Okay.
the when I think it was making his first run with his old truck, it had this like nice panning shot where it had him just go across the road and then just pass by, and then the camera wouldn't with it. And I was like, I haven't seen that kind of shot in like maybe like for a Fast and Furious movie, but it's like that quick. And then there's another one where he's driving and he's on like the third of the screen and he comes through that one. And then where he comes in and he picks up the drugs, where it had a shot where it starts in the garage and it goes through the window and he's driving in and then he drives all the way up and it pans in and while it drives into it and then it goes all the way into like the actual scene where they're talking. That was like a very like, okay, that was like actually thought out right there. That was like another shot I saw. I was like, okay, all right, okay, I see you. But other than that, yeah, there was like some like interesting ones like where you really didn't get to see what was like going on, like where he had the I guess the guy that was following him to delivering drugs, and how they had a shot where he's like on the second floor and then he's on the bottom floor.
Oh yeah, now that you just remind, yeah, like the hotel, the hotel scenes and how all of that was shot with like it was like scenes with say like Bradley Cooper and Clint Eastwood with like the guy that they ended up trying to arrest in the background, and then like it would switch where it was like maybe they're in the car watching and it's like you can see all three of like they're watching this guy, but you can see like all what's happening with all three. Like there were some good shots that were like that. Yeah,
I definitely like that one because like he's looking down and it kind of just kind of captures actually like
I know
his
which
like
one.
Curiosity of like what's actually going on in that room.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it never brings you into that room. All you see are the women go in and then coming out. So you're like you kind of have to play with your imagination, but you also like know like you kind of feel like his perspective and also like what went on in that room, and it kind of like translated well. So there's stuff like that where I'm like,
Yeah, you're
okay,
right.
I enjoyed that a little bit more. For me, it's just like what I saw, and I was like, oh wow, like there was actual a lot of thought in some of these shots. So I don't know.
Okay, no, I see that. Yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, it's like, yeah, there was like shots like that where you just felt like, okay, you know what's going on there. I felt like for that whole scene where he comes in and they arrest that guy at the ice machine, that it should have been through just Clint Eastwood's view. That would I think would have like been better. It's like,
Or like they like arrest him, but the camera goes like into Clint Eastwood's hotel room, and he's like panicking or whatever because like they're like right there.
Yeah, or like he thinks they're coming after him, but they actually go after that guy, and like they pull, and like you'll see him.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that would have been like a better idea. So it's like it's more suspenseful, I guess.
But those scenes were good too. I mean, going back to like
they were still good.
Clint Eastwood's acting and like not only the cinematography, but like the acting there was like how he played out. Like when he got pulled over and like the police dog was like going off because of the like, you know, what was going on there and stuff like that. There were just so many, like he just played so many scenes like really well. He was super like really flexible in like what he needed for each of those scenes.
And I also kind of felt like the screenplay was kind of built for his like abilities at the moment. So it's kind of like a good way to play off that character.
Yeah.
Let's get into spoilers, and now let's just talk about the plot of the whole movie.
I would say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's just this was a cookie cutter like progression throughout the story. Not that, again, like I really enjoyed this movie, but like there were no twists. I think maybe the only like twist is when they killed the head of the cartel.
Yeah, where the guy was like, oh,
he's like shooting the skeet, and then like you hear the gunshot, but like someone shoots him instead. So like that was like really the only twist. Besides that, it was just like a charming, like kind of predictable, formulaic film that like just went from A to B and like was good in between. That's about it. I mean, there wasn't nothing crazy and nothing crazy happened.
Even what they started with, where he's like it had like not a flashback. It started with him like 12 years before the film takes place and how successful he is, and then
you trying to get deported,
and then and then he translates into the next, like the actual present movie, where he's like struggling financially and like he's kind of dependent on like his granddaughter, but then he's also not been a father or a husband of all those years, and now he's kind of not trying to get back to his family, but he's just like in orbit of it. And then he obviously gets the somewhat of a break. Like I said, we've talked about from his granddaughters, one of her friends, and then he's like, yeah, I'll do it. All I have to do is drive. And like what you didn't know at first was like, oh, I'm driving for, the cartel eventually.
I think it was like it wasn't until the third or fourth run that he realized that there were even drugs in there. Yeah. Because he already had the new truck when the whole scene with like him getting pulled over. He wasn't pulled over, but he stopped on the side.
And then it just builds up to like, okay, this is his first, second, third, and then eventually he's like, wow, okay, you're moving. He's like moving.
They keep upping the amount that he's carrying every time that he.
And then he gets like basically like a chaperone that drives with them. He's like, oh, you have to be more towards my rules. But he's like, it was kind of like a brilliant way for him to drive like that. Like it was like, no, like dude, just we're gonna take my routes because we're gonna change it up a little bit.
Right. It was unpredictable. He would stop at like random restaurants and like stop for the night at like random other places and like pull over to the side of the road and help people. It was just like the like spontaneity of his driving is like what was making him successful. And I think there were two things also that I want to add is that there were, especially with regards to his family and like everything that was going on there, this movie did a really good job with very simple scenes, but scenes that explained and allowed you to connect the dots with multiple other people who were not in that scene. So like in the beginning with like his daughter's wedding, and it's like her like getting ready, her mom and her daughter, like Clint Eastwood's wife and his, I guess, granddaughter or whatever, and she's like talking like, do you think he's gonna show up? And like, and like just like how that whole scene went, like you learned so much about Clint Eastwood's character, and like there were so many different things where like two people are having a conversation about someone else, and like that's a powerful conversation between them, but like you're also learning things about other people, like in just really like simple but effective ways. And that was really good throughout, I think. And then I did really like the progression that they had with, obviously it was like he had a good interaction, like good as in like funny and like with the cartel people that he was working with initially. And then like this other guy comes in, sent in from Mexico, and he's like all hard nosed, and he puts like the mic in his visor on the pen, and he's
singing off it.
Right. He wants to like, he's like super like sketched out by this guy and like doesn't trust him at all or whatever. And then like he kind of also just comes to realize that like, you know, when they stop for the pulled pork sandwich, like the guy helps him get the cop away from him. And like all these different things, like they develop a, not necessarily like a friendship, but like he like definitely softens on him. And then like it flips again, like after, I assume that was his dad or his like adoptive father.
Yeah, it's like a
killed.
mutual relationship. That they understand what the business is, but also that they have like he respects them, if anything.
Right. Yeah. By the end of that, yeah. So like I really liked that progression like throughout. From that, he comes into this like he's on a mission, like super hard nosed guy. He's like calling back to the leader of the cartel, like let me kill this guy. Like he keeps disobeying my orders, like all these sorts of things, and like how that changes, like up until then, like the regime change basically. And then like how he's like forced to go back to that hard nosed like line. So
yeah, well then you have like those two guys that are brought in. I don't even remember their names. That are like, oh yeah,
I don't know that if we ever knew their names.
One thing was puzzling. I was like, why don't those guys just threaten like about his family and stuff? And like this whole time, that was like a little bit of a hole where when he went off, you know what I mean, from that delivery for a week.
Oh
like,
yeah.
You didn't know his family at all. Like the cartel, I think the cartel would have known.
Yeah,
you know
probably.
what I mean, where they would have threatened or they would have found him easily.
They wouldn't have been just like calling him on the phone, like, you know, 50 missed calls. Like when he pulled out his phone when he was sitting there next to his ex-wife, and it was like 50 missed calls and 90 text messages or whatever. And it's like the cartel would have knocked on the door like the next day.
Yeah, that was like the hole I had. I was like, I think they would have found a lot sooner than that.
I can see that.
But yeah, and then it goes all the way to the point where the climax where they find him, but they show him like, oh hey, this is what happened. They're like, I think that was a little. I was like, they're really, you got soft because his wife died. I was like, man, you're good cartel. I think you're ruthless. But yeah, and then he makes the last run and he gets caught. And like that was like what we were explaining through the Bradley Cooper performances and scenes is their kind of just constant struggle to get him at the right time and have missed him. And then they finally get him because of the description of the car, really. And then
I think that was another possible hole for me anyway, is like when they left the diner, he comes in and they like have that little conversation about like the work family balance, like Clint Eastwood and Bradley Cooper. And then like when he leaves the thermos and Bradley Cooper comes out. Like I know the car was like tucked around the corner back then, but like when he left, even like, would you not have seen the black truck? Because he was looking for a black truck.
Well, unless like there was like an exit that way where you don't go across the diner. I don't know. There's a hole there. But yeah, I mean, still was a good movie regardless of all that. I enjoyed it. I think Clint Eastwood, it was like, it warmed me up. I was like, it's Clint Eastwood.
It was just like,
how can I not like this?
There's not anything special in this movie, but it is just a solid, enjoyable film.
Definitely.
So like it was good. It was like definitely worth the viewing, I think.
Yeah, and I think we talked about a lot of things that we didn't like about it through like
there's some of the holes. It's what I just didn't. I mean, like my like it's a solid movie. It's also like it not being special is a negative, I guess, as well. It's just it is very predictable. That is really my negative. But I don't have any really problems with any of the performances or anything like that. And it was just. Some characters were only given just marginal things to work with. So like I said, Michael Pena and Lawrence Fishburne, I think specifically kind of struggled a little bit. The cartel leader could have been anyone. The two guys that took over could have been anyone. They were just like kind of cookie cutter roles, but I mean, it worked in the movie that they put together.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think that's what I was like puzzled with throughout the movie. I was like, I think maybe the last were interrupting my kind of like thinking process while I was watching it. It was like about the holes and the plots. And I was like, it being predictable. I'm like, why didn't they just do it that way? Like it would still have fit with what they're doing. It wouldn't have made like a big of a difference, stuff like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's like the things I talk about, like not knowing where he was, all the scenes where they almost got him, and then like the family too. Like, where'd you get all this money? Like, how's it? Come on, guys.
That was a funny scene though when he was like a part-time gigolo. He's like his ex-wife when she's on the bed or whatever, like asks him like how like. First off, it was a powerful scene when she says like you didn't need to get rich for us to let you back in, basically. But at the same time, when he's like, oh, you wouldn't believe me if I told you or whatever, he like goes like it's like basically he's like a stripper, and then I forget what the other one was, and then he's like, oh, I've been running drugs for the cartel or whatever.
$2 billion of cocaine.
Yeah.
She just laughs at that.
She just laughs it off, yeah. But so like that was a good scene and stuff like that. But yeah, and. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, let's conclude
not too
this.
many negatives for me.
Jacob, you gonna recommend this to people?
I think it's worth it. I think I would say go see it in the theater just because, not that it's like this prime theater experience, but like I want to see it supported so that like Clint Eastwood makes another movie, because like this was a good movie. I'd like to see him make another one. Not at all necessarily like not a sequel or anything like that. I just mean like
in general,
right? Yeah,
because last year he did the one on the train where he directed like that
movie bombed.
That movie was super awkward as well. But regardless, yeah.
The
solid movie.
15-17 to Paris is the one you're talking about. Yeah,
yeah. So
So hopefully I want him to get more opportunities to continue making films like this one. So I would say go see it in the theater for the sake of supporting the studio and Clint Eastwood as a director and stuff like that. In general, do I really are you missing anything by not seeing it in a theater versus renting it on Redbox? No, to be honest. I mean, this isn't you're not going to be sit in the Dolby theater and be blown away by this film. You don't need to see it. You don't need to see it in IMAX or whatever. It's like there's nothing remarkable about it that makes the theater viewing like special.
Yeah, I think though if you do watch it, I think you still need to pay attention to the movie as well. You can't just because if you watch it like on a Netflix kind of thing, or if you get it on Redbox, you're at home, so you're going to be able to be distracted. So I think that's like another thing where it probably is going to be a better experience. But I think that in general, in any movie experience,
if you go to the theater, you're more likely to pay attention. I think that there are this movie has a lot of hidden subtle emotional things that happen and like conversations and like points that people make and events in the movie and stuff like that it's a little bit deeper than I think maybe we're letting on by saying, oh, it's this cookie cutter kind of movie or whatever, but there is a deeper level to that in very clever minor ways. And I think that's part of the charm of it. But yeah, it definitely is worth paying attention to it and just devoting a couple hours. It's a good movie. I would recommend seeing it.
Yeah, I think out of all the movies right now in theaters, it'd be a top 5 movie where you're going to get your money's worth.
Of movies at the moment in theaters, yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. So if you have already watched Spider-Man, you've already watched The Upside, you already watched Glass.
Well, yeah, I would put it up there with The Upside.
Yeah, so it's definitely in there. It's definitely in the top 5 for you guys to go watch. Is that it then? Yeah, solid movie, definitely worth the money to go watch. For sure.
If you have a pass of any kind, AMC A-List, or if you still have your Movie Pass, or I don't know if you can even get it on Movie Pass, or the Regal thing, whatever you got, it's 100% worth it if you're not going to be paying for it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I would still recommend it if you can go.
Definitely. All right. So let us know down in the comments down below if you have watched it and what you guys thought about it, and if you thought it was a solid movie like we did. Also, let us know in the comments down below what you didn't like about it. Yeah, that's pretty much it.